Now we are just on the cusp of the rut beginning. And we've been seeing that on our trail cameras. It's really interesting. We've been seeing some signs I look for mid-morning to mid-afternoon, sometime in that time frame, middle of the day, water hole use. We'll see bucks 7 a.m., 8 a.m., 10 a.m., 12 going to a water hole. And that's a sure sign the rut is beginning. That doesn't happen in the the rest of the year, in the non-rut time. Another thing too is we're starting to see bucks express their home range. You have this buck that is going to this large food source at night. He beds around here and he goes like this. He might play around at night out in this area, big ag field, open hardwoods, whatever, but then he goes right back. So when he goes back, this is bed down here and this is food, and he pretty much does that. But all of a sudden, you get up to this edge right here and he goes this way and this way. So you might pick him up. You have a camera right here. You pick him up occasionally because you know he's using this route. And even during the summertime, he could be 50 yards away. You don't know he's there because he's going in such a straight line to his food source from his bedding area. But then all of a sudden, you have a camera over here, camera over here, camera over here, and they start to express that range. So he was in a 50-yard wide window going to food, up and down, back and forth during daylight, to all of a sudden he's going this way and hitting 3 cameras for 700 yards and down in elevation 300 feet. So they really start, and we're seeing both of those happen. We're also seeing a lot of sparring, and of course scrapes open up. So there's a lot of signs that that's happening. And so many more people getting in the woods right now, and wanted to just go through these calls because it's pretty cool. You can look on the Outdoor Channel, Sportsman's Channel, and you see people using calls, calling in bucks. And I think some of those calls that seem so cool, we saw one the other day in a snort wheeze. The guy snort wheezed, and it was a 180-inch buck that came literally sprinting to him. It was really, really cool. Doesn't always work out that way. So I want to talk about each one of these calls, when to use them, when not to use them. And you'll notice I have these in order of the least aggressive to the most. And I don't know if that really matters to you, but it should. And so you want something else to think about, not just what call to use and why to bring it to a stand and when to use it, but how aggressive it is, because ultimately that can ruin your hunt too, just as much as it can help you, probably even more than it can help you. First one is a bleat can. Bleats seem to be something you can use all the time. I've even called in does with a bleat can. So you're out there doe hunting, you want to call in a doe, it's early season, middle of October, rut's not in progress, use a bleat. You might have a doe come over to you, a good opportunity for a doe. I find in the early season to mid-season, not a bad call to call in a young buck. They're curious, so come on over, they think another deer's around, they're social. See what's going on. I don't see mature bucks really coming to them in the outside of the rut period. In the rut, if a buck is with a doe, almost none of these work outside of maybe snort, wheeze, or antlers when you're super aggressive. But a bleat I don't find is enough. A grunt, why is he going to go over and investigate another buck when he's already with a doe? He doesn't want to bring that doe over there. So I find that they really don't want to leave that doe, and a bleat can is not going to get them to either. So sometimes in the early part of the rut, when it's first happening, like right now, a bleat can might not be a bad idea because a buck's just looking around. He hasn't found a doe that's in heat yet. As soon as that rut starts happening around here, let's say end of October, early November, for you in southern Ohio, Kansas, Missouri, West Virginia, maybe even up into New Jersey, South Pennsylvania, maybe that'd be the 7th, 10th of November, somewhere around there, means he's already maybe bred one doe, 2. He's actively searching for another. You have that rut lockdown in there somewhere where you have the pre-rut, rut lockdown, meaning every buck is invited to the party. They get to find a doe. There's a rapidly increasing number of does, so it's pretty easy to find one in heat and breed. But after that, they don't breed more than 2 to 4 for the entire season, entire rut. And so that being said, once they breed 1 or 2, pickings are kind of slim and they have to start looking around. And that's when something like a bleat can be a really good addition. And it's so simple, you just pull it out, or if you want to make a call that does it, you can just turn it, flip it, and very, very non-aggressive. I find that you can make a bleat can noise, a bleat in general, doe, fawn bleat, anytime, and you're really not going to spook any deer. Unless they're watching you do it, it draws attention to yourself. And that's the case with any of these. A grunt call. Grunt call to me is, again, curiosity. Think about when bucks are sparring. They're actively sparring right now, right in that cusp of the rut beginning. They're looking around, pre-rut, grunt can be a great thing. And then you flip to when they're with does, like they're in that rut lockdown, that for us happens right here at the end of October, early November. They could always be coming off a doe. They might be with a doe for 2 days, 3 days, and then all of a sudden they'll leave, especially a mature buck. When he's leaving and he hears that grunt, he might come right over. Same with that bleat can. But especially that grunt, to me, it's, boy, that's another buck, might be in my area. It elicits more of a territorial thing, not just maybe a little bit of anger. Where a bleat can is just curiosity, hey, there might be a doe over there, I should go check her out. But if there's a buck and it's in his bedding area, it might be more likely to come over. It's a little bit more aggressive. I like that when he's actively searching for a doe during the end of the rut, second rut, where there's not as many does coming into heat. Grunt call is great. So a grunt call every time you go into the woods isn't a bad idea. Antlers. Antlers to me are, you're starting to step up the aggressive scale quite a bit. There's a lot of super shy bucks that when they hear antlers, they'll run the other way. At the same time, unlike a grunt call, bucks usually circle downwind to antlers. So unless your downwind is blocked, then if you have thick cover downwind of you, just about guaranteed he's going to circle downwind. He does not want to come into a fight not approaching downwind and see what he's getting himself into. So antlers can be super aggressive. So they're not as aggressive as a snort wheeze, but antlers are pretty aggressive. Now, I bring a bleat, I bring a grunt call often, but antlers I rarely do. I might have brought them to a stand once last year or the year before, but I rarely bring them. And you can see some right here. I have some really nice rattling antlers right here. And I like them a lot. Dylan, I don't know if you can see those, but I like those. They're nice, but I don't always bring them in. I hardly ever do. And part of that reason is because when you're hunting Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Indiana, the high pressure states, a lot of people rattle, which you'll get to at number 5 down here. A lot of people rattle, grunt call, snort wheeze, sometimes all at once, which is bad. So when that happens, deer get educated really quick. No different than overcalling turkeys all the time. Dylan, you might disagree, but out here, I don't want to go out and practice my turkey calling on toms in April and May and see how they respond and then expect to hunt them the next day. I know Dylan just says they got a brain the size of a pea. They're not that smart, but I think you can educate them.
You can definitely educate them. Yeah, definitely.
And I think all wildlife, they're really good at picking up patterns. Negative patterns, positive patterns. And to me, it's no different than calling in a young buck with a grunt call just to play with them and see what happens. That's a big no-no to me too. Yeah, great, you called him over, he spooked and ran and spooked out the deer herd. I don't want to take that chance. So I'm going to practice my grunt calling on a mature buck that I want to come over. I'm usually with a grunt call, he's going by, I'm going to grunt. You know, I can see that he's not going to come by me during bow shot. Great to just give him a grunt. As soon as he stops, same with a bleat can, as soon as he stops and looks your way, put it away. And just forget about it. I mentioned this in a video a little while ago, but I messed up maybe 3 years ago. It's on a big one in Coon Valley where I used to hunt in Wisconsin. And I stopped him with a grunt, 45 yards through the brush. He made a scrape, he sat there, and then I waited a minute, I got impatient, I grunted again, and he just turned away and just walked away. And I really feel like if I wouldn't have done anything, I had a lot better chance. He at least had a chance he would have come over to me because he already heard me, he already knew I was there. When I grunt again, then it's kind of like, oh yeah, you're not a deer. You're not a buck, and I'm going to turn away and walk the other way. I really messed up on that one. That was a big one. But bottom line is we go through this list, antlers, very aggressive. So I like using antlers. You know, what's crazy is I see fewer people hunting on public land than private land. So when you get small private lands, it doesn't matter if it's 40 acres, 100 acres, 200 acres, 500 acres. When you have a lot of people hunting in a given section of land, or 3 or 4 square miles where you have 25 hunters or more, a lot of people are using antlers and making a lot of noise, and I think it can have an off-putting effect to a buck. Dylan, I don't know if you can find this. It was on the Rhonda trail camera. It was just 2 nights ago, and it was Junior coming in to the Rhonda scrape. He came in right before that. We got a video, and then we got a video like 5 minutes later, and he was looking like he was worried about something. He was like starting to step away, getting a little nervous. You could tell he's looking back, and that's when a new buck, not a new buck, it's that 8-point that angles up.
Okay.
We looked at it like he's a jerk, and he's kind of a bully. We already used the name Trouble. So what do you think of Richard? That's what we started calling him. So Richard was a good name. So Richard came in, and Junior just exited right out the back of the plot. And I look at it like Richard is going all over the property in that corner, and he's pretty aggressive and pushing.
Trying to run the show, huh?
He is. And so a buck like him might respond really well to a snort wheeze, to rattling antlers, to a grunt call. He's very aggressive. Aggressive bucks die soon. And the only reason he probably isn't, he's probably a 4-year-old big body. He's got smaller antlers. That's probably why he's not dead yet. And he's very aggressive. And where Junior is a 6-year-old buck, he's a shy buck. He's the kind that you snort wheeze at, rattle at, and he goes the other way. And that's the reason he's got to 6 years old. So a lot of those super big bucks they're super shy, they don't respond favorably. Snort wheezes are awesome because it's kind of a last-ditch effort, and I don't look at it like he's running away. You snort wheeze is probably not going to do anything. In fact, you might just educate him. But when you have a buck out in the field, you can tell he's not going to come over to you, and that's the case on a recent TV show I saw. It was one of the Drury Brothers contractors. It was a big monster. It was almost going on a ridge line out in an open field with red cedar in the back. And it was a super wide, heavy buck, and they snort wheezed. Grunted, he couldn't hear. It was a little windy. It was probably 150 yards away, at least 100. So they snort wheezed, and literally the thing came running at them. Came into the base of their stand because they know exactly where that sound came from, thinking it's on the ground somewhere, and he made a scrape probably 10 feet away from their stand. While he's fumbling, getting ready, the buck ends up walking like 5 feet, and he ends up shooting him like 15 feet from the stand. It was pretty cool. It was a really cool hunt, and that's the reaction you sometimes get with a snort wheeze. And I think in that case, they had nothing to lose. He's going by, it's at a distance, he's a big boss buck for the area, obviously pretty aggressive, and it was at that right time, it was during the rut, to where they use a snort wheeze. And a lot of times what I like is you can buy snort wheeze cans and stuff, but just using your hand and going into your hand and just kind of that, that's all it has to be. And if you keep doing it more and more, he's going to figure out you're probably not a buck. But do that one time. If he stops and looks, just get ready. And at the same time, always understand that it doesn't even take a super shy buck to me. It just takes a buck that doesn't want to get its butt kicked, or it's not in a mood, or he's chasing a doe or something, where there's a certain percentage of bucks that will respond unfavorably to a snort wheeze. So it is kind of a last-ditch effort. I like it for on a grander scale. You know, I have a buck walking by that's not going to come in to bow range. He's 50 yards out, starting to increase the distance. You use a grunt call. He stops, you put it away, comes over. This is sometimes it's 150 yards out in the open hardwoods or field, and you know it's a dominant buck. You'd make that snort wheeze. He comes running in. Now, we've had in the case down in Reedstown many years ago, probably 7 years ago, 6, 8, I don't know. Time flies by too fast. But we're sitting on a small hunting plot, just watching some deer on it. All of a sudden we hear rattling, bleating, snort wheezing. You're like, what is going on the neighbor's property? And all these deer came running to us, stopped on the small hunting plot, and looked back that way. Now, this person was making all this ruckus, and they're at least 200 yards away, and we could hear it. So very loud, very aggressive, combination of all this stuff, and the deer herd just ran. We didn't even know there were that many deer over there on the neighbors, but they all ran to us. And that's the problem with just throwing everything and throwing all caution to wind. Always think about the future when it comes into using a grunt call, using rattling antlers, using snort wheezing, using bleats, especially if you're using them all You can overdo it. When you overdo it, you can burn out a stand, especially for a certain buck. He might not go by that for 2 or 3 weeks in that case. Now, if you're down in some of the Fantasyland states, you blow it on a buck, then another big one might be coming by an hour later. Or that buck, because there's not a lot of hunting pressure, might be coming by. But once he figures out that you're a person and not a deer, that's the risk with all of this. So that's why mostly I would carry a grunt call every time, a bleat call occasionally, rattling antlers very seldom. I even like using, again, going back to the private land is really hunted. Public land to me a lot of times, especially remote public, can be very unpressured, and bucks can respond very favorably to rattling antlers. Because if they're not used to hearing it and it's in a remote area, then especially open hardwood public land type settings, then that sound carries for a long time. Grunt calls, any of these, I'm usually not blind calling, like with the grunt call or bleat. If I hear 2 bucks sparring over 50 yards, 60 yards away, I can't see them, I might grunt. But typically I'm using a bleat, especially a grunt call on bucks I know that are there and I want to call over because I don't want them getting downwind of me. Rattling antlers are more blind calling, but I'm not doing it every 15 minutes. It's more like once an hour. If I was on public land, I might choose to rattle every hour and maybe grunt after that 15 minutes later in case something came in and it was just kind of hanging out. I don't know what's there. But, and even grunting, I'm not, playing a song. It's more, a short grunt, maybe a little longer one, short one, and stop. Maybe 3 or 4 grunts. I'm not being overly aggressive with it. Again, the more aggressive you are with the calling, the more likely you are to spook those deer. So, probably missed some stuff, but I really like calling. It's just not something in a high pressure state that I would recommend all the time. And you always hear the story, someone snort wheeze, shot the biggest buck of their life. But we're looking for consistency. We want to shoot the biggest bucks in the area, the biggest bucks in the neighborhood, meaning the oldest bucks, the most dominant, consistently every single year. So I don't want to put all my eggs into one basket. I'm not hoping to shoot a buck every 6 years. I want to shoot a buck every year and sometimes 2. And that's just the level that we expect for ourselves. So everything we recommend on this channel is slanted towards that, including our use of calls. And as you guys proceed through the rut, enjoy the rut, have a safe rut, a safe hunt. And if you're calling, if you had some recent success, let us know in the comments below. And I appreciate you watching. Yeah, I really appreciate you watching all the way to the end. Your followers really appreciate and taking the time. I wanted to mention we have our last minute food plots you can check out at Pure Wildlife Blends. We have a lot of different seed varieties, especially our fall power greens. We have ways to establish clover this time of year, rye, a lot of different goodies. We also have our client visits. We've already started scheduling for this year, December through next August. So there's 5 of us going to client properties. Make sure you check that out. And then finally, our books and web classes. They're great Christmas presents this time of year is when they really start to sell. So really appreciate you watching. Just check out Whitetail Habitat Solutions or for this food plot seed company, purewildlifeblends.com. Thank you.